After the funeral, my children called every day to check on me. That is, until they started talking about legal options if I didn't sell the house. 2 weeks after John's funeral, the house felt unnaturally empty. I was standing in the living room on a Thursday morning, watching the rain streak down the window pane. The phone rang, shattering the quiet. It was Michael, my son. "Mom, it's me," he said, his voice clipped and urgent. "I'm calling about the house. Jessica and I have been talking." He got straight to the point, without a single pleasantry. "I found an investor," he said. "They're very interested. The homeowner's insurance is about to expire, and the renewal costs are high. I think this is the right time." "The house has been paid off for years, Michael," I replied softly, my voice even. On the other end of the line, Michael sighed, a sound thick with impatience. "I know, Mom, but it's not just that. Dad's pension isn't much. We don't want you to struggle alone." I looked out at the Japanese maple in the garden. Its leaves a deep crimson against the grey rain. "Are you really worried about me? Or is there another reason?" "Of course I'm worried about you," he answered, a slight hesitation in his voice. "But we also have to be realistic. The money would help a lot. Leo's tuition, this new project my wife and I are working on." I had heard enough. "Let me think about it," I said, and ended the call. The room felt smaller. A short while later, Jessica called. Her voice was gentle, feigning concern. "Mom, are you okay? Michael and I are so worried about you." "I'm fine," I said. "Actually, I was calling about the house," she said. "I think Michael has a point. You could sell the house and move closer to us. We have a small guest apartment in the backyard, very private and cozy. We could see each other more often." I pictured the tiny, detached space of the guest apartment. "And the money from the sale, Jessica?" I asked. "Well, after we fix up the apartment for you, if there's anything left over, you could help us out a little," she said casually. "It's for Leo's future, after all." A pre-packaged plan. "Jessica," I asked, "when was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing?" "Mom, what are you talking about?" she stammered, followed by a long pause. "It's been 2 months," I said. Silence. Then she changed the subject, her voice probing. "Are you still sending the money to Leo regularly?" "Same as always. 500 a month." "Right. I just mean, he doesn't need to know it's from you," Jessica said quickly. "Let us just say it's from us, so he doesn't have to worry." I understood their game. "I have to go," I said, and hung up. After the calls, I was alone. I stood in the hallway. Late afternoon, sun slanted through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing over a side table. John's glasses were still there, right on top of the book he would never finish. I reached out a hand, then pulled it back. To touch them now, I wasn't ready. My feet, of their own accord, carried me to his study. The scent of his lemon oil and cologne was still there. A woody fragrance clung to the drapes. His desk was untouched. I sat in his chair. The leather was worn where his elbows used to rest. For the first time in 2 weeks, my shoulders relaxed. I remembered the bottom drawer, the one that always stuck. I yanked it open. Beneath a pile of tax files and old manuals, I saw a blue manila folder. It was heavier than I expected. I placed it on the desk. A yellow sticky note was affixed to the top, in John's blocky handwriting. It read, "If you're reading this, you need to know what's inside." For the first time since the funeral, I felt something other than grief. It wasn't hope. It was a path. I opened the folder. The first thing I saw was financial paperwork. There were bank accounts I never knew existed, all in John's name. He had put money aside. Below that were property deeds. I held my breath. A villa in Portugal purchased 10 years ago. In John's name only. My name was nowhere on it. It was his plan B, a place for me to disappear. And there was more. Life insurance policies I'd never signed. One was newer, smaller. It had a single beneficiary, our grandson, Leo, not his parents. John had already made his decision. And then I found his letter. He'd written it 2 years ago. Sarah, if you found this, then I'm gone. And if I know our children, the calls have started. They will circle you, not because they need you, but because they want what we built. I paid off the house so you wouldn't have to worry, but I know they will try to convince you that you can't manage alone. That's why there's a second plan. I read, hearing his voice in my head. Calm, steady, not angry, but resolute. At the very back were final instructions, the contact information for a law firm in Lisbon, and a man named Marco. Next to it, a handwritten note. Trust Marco. He owes me his life. It's a long story. I set the paper down on the desk. My heart was beating at a normal rhythm, but my mind was racing. My heart was steady, but my mind was racing. With what John had left me, I was no longer just a grieving woman. I had a plan. My first call wasn't to Michael or Jessica. I dialed a number from an old address book, one I hadn't used in over a decade. Catherine Alvarez, an estate lawyer. She had handled a case for John's aunt. I trusted her. She was precise, direct, and hated drama. Sarah, she said. As soon as I was put through, I'm so sorry about John. Come in this afternoon. Bring whatever he left you. I heard the click of her opening her calendar. The sound was more fortifying than coffee. Catherine's office was in an old brick building. I placed the blue folder on her desk. I turned directly to the page I wanted her to see first. The deed to the house. John had put it solely in my name 6 years ago. John was insistent, I said, my throat tight. She nodded. He did the right thing, she said quietly, her eyes scanning the document quickly but missing nothing. If someone wants to sell this house without your signature, they're selling air. Michael has found a buyer, I replied, my voice dry. Catherine's mouth twitched, but it wasn't a smile. Good. Now, I will be clear on 2 legal points. She placed a form letter on the desk. We fill in the names here. It goes to the realtor, the buyer's agent, whoever sent you paperwork. It demands they cease and desist representing you. All future contact must be in writing. I glanced at it. I didn't pay much attention to the legal jargon, but to the tone. I liked the tone. It wasn't angry. It was a full stop. By the time I left, my mind felt cool. I was calm again. That evening, Michael left a voicemail. Mom, call me back. Don't do anything rash. We're just trying to make this easy. That word again. Easy. It sounded like a chain. I ignored it. Then I did something. I called a moving company. The smell of cardboard boxes in the garage, a scent of dust and beginnings. I started with the children's old bedrooms, rooms they hadn't occupied in 20 years. Michael's first. I packed his yearbooks, the baseball card collection he'd sworn would pay for college, and the blue tie I bought him for his first interview. Jessica's room was different. The piano books from the year she insisted on lessons. I wrapped them carefully, as if packing away a story I no longer wanted to revise. On each box I wrote clearly, Michael, personal effects, returned. Jessica, piano books, returned. The word returned felt like an exhale. When people treat you like a resource to be managed, sometimes all you can do is give them back what they left behind. Mid-morning, Michael called. This time, I answered. I had a feeling today was the day for clarity. What are you doing? He didn't bother with a greeting. Greg from the real estate office said you threatened to sue. I promised I would, I corrected. That's a different word. This is ridiculous, he snapped. The offer is real. It's a good price. We're trying to... Who is we? I asked softly. He took a sharp breath. Jessica and I. The family. You know that. I do, I said. And that's the problem. I could hear the silence as he calculated. If you're going to be difficult, he finally said, we'll have to consider other options. Guardianship isn't out of the question. The words were like shards of glass, but I didn't let them cut me. That's a serious accusation, I said, my voice still even. Are you saying I'm not of sound mind? I'm saying, his voice lowered, that we can't just sit by and watch you make a mistake. I just made one, I said, answering your call. Then I hung up. I had recorded it all. Any further threats would go directly to my lawyer. The next morning I had the boxes picked up. At 8:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A photo from the delivery driver, the boxes on Michael's front porch. 4 minutes later, another photo, the items on Jessica's doorstep. By 8:33 a.m., my doorbell rang. I knew that knock. I put the chain on and opened the door a crack. What is this? Michael roared, holding out his phone. That, I said, is your life. I'm giving it back to you. Saturday arrived. The sky was a flat, winter grey. I was up at 6. Around 10, I heard the familiar crunch of tires on gravel. Michael's car. He always brought his own weather with him. I opened the door before they could knock. Michael came in first, shoulders forward, jaw set. Jessica followed, cheeks flushed from the cold, her lips pressed into a thin line, as if she were holding something in that would break her teeth if it escaped. No, Leo. His absence felt like a draft. Good morning, I said. We need to sort this out, Michael said, not sitting. He paced the rug, like a man measuring a field for a fence that would be taller than the permit allowed. Coffee? I asked, because offering hospitality to people who have rehearsed hostility has a way of derailing their script. No, he snapped. Yes, please, Jessica said, and the words surprised her. I poured her a cup. She stared into the steam as if it might tell her what to say next. I sat in my chair and let it make its honest creak. You said sort this out, Michael. That implies a dispute. Please state your dispute. The house, he said, as if the two words could be condensed into a law. You can't keep it. It's not logical. It's not mortgaged, I repeated, because repetition is sometimes obedience, and sometimes it is a mirror. Taxes, maintenance, safety. He fired back in a volley. It's not sustainable. Jessica's voice was softer. Mom, we worry about you falling, about you being alone. You worry about the house being mine, I said. That is not the same worry. Michael stopped pacing. We have another buyer, a higher offer. We have a letter of intent. You had one, I said, and slid Catherine's certified mail receipt across the table like a game piece. Your buyer has been informed that all further contact is to be through legal counsel. There will be no sale. That's absurd, he said. I'm making you say what you want, I said calmly. That's why you're angry. He glared at me. For a second, he was 7 again, hating that the baseball bat was too heavy, hating it more when I offered to help. He switched tactics. If you won't be realistic, we'll file for guardianship. Jessica flinched. She hadn't expected him to say it. She set her coffee cup down, very carefully. Then file, I said. My voice was so calm it surprised all three of us. You will find that a judge prefers facts to feelings. Bring your evidence. I will bring my recordings. Michael's mouth opened, then closed. He did not like the sound of his voice being owned by someone else. Jessica tried to salvage the situation. We don't want to do any of this, she said. We want you to be safe. We want you to be close. In the basement, I said. In our home, she pleaded. In your basement, I repeated. Let's be precise. Silence. Then I reached for my phone. I placed it in the middle of the table, and I put it on speaker. We should call Leo, I said. This is about his tuition and my house. Jessica's hand shot out. Don't bring him into this. He's already in it, I said. He just doesn't know what it is. The ringtone sounded. It felt louder than usual because no one was breathing. On the second ring, Leo answered. Hi, Grandma. His voice was clear. Hello, Leo, I said gently. I looked at Jessica. Her head was bowed. You're on speakerphone. Your mother and Uncle Michael are here. We're at my kitchen table. I wanted us to talk together. Oh, he said. A slight hesitation. Okay. The table was silent. The air was thick. Mom said you were thinking about selling the house, Leo asked. His question was an accusation. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth. Because we were trying to help them. Think Michael started. I held up a hand, cutting him off. Leo, I said, have you been getting the money I send every month? Silence. $500 a month since your freshman year, I added. Have you been getting it? More heavy silence. What money? He asked. His voice was so small. It made me want to rewind time. I didn't look at Jessica. I looked at the bowl of lemons on the table. They were the only real thing right now. The account ending in 3,842, I said. I transfer it on the second business day of every month. I heard Leo take a sharp breath over the phone. It was as if he were in the room. Mom told me that was... He trailed off. The sentence hung in the air. I thought that was from them. I wanted you to have what you needed without having to ask, I said. Michael slammed a hand on the table. Mom, this is exactly why. Together, I interrupted, still not looking at him. We need to talk about this together. On the other end of the line, Leo let out a sob, a raw, wounded sound. The whole room seemed to tilt. Mom? Jessica squeezed her eyes shut. Leo, honey. I spoke softly into the phone. $12,000 in total. 24 months. At 500. It's not everything, but it's not nothing. Leo was crying now. Grandma, he said. His voice choked. Why didn't you tell me? Your mother asked me not to, I replied. She said it would make things complicated. Complicated for who? Leo asked. Complicated what? No one answered him. Because no one could answer without admitting who they were. I looked at Jessica, not with blame. She met my gaze, like a student who finally understands the test has no easy answers. I didn't want you to, she swallowed. I feel like you owed him. I wanted you to think that we... You wanted the credit, Leo said through his tears. His words were as cruel as any truth that has just been unearthed. You wanted me to keep calling you the hero. Jessica's face crumpled. Michael shot to his feet, stumbled, then sat back down. We're not doing this, he said to no one. You started it with a phone call, I said. There was no malice in it. Their united front had shattered. The phone clicked off. The room felt bigger, as if the truth had claimed its space. Jessica buried her face in her hands, as if the darkness could reorder things. I didn't mean to, she began, and then stopped, because she knew the second half of that sentence was a lie. I thought if he knew, he'd see you differently, or see me differently. You were protecting your narrative, I said gently, the one where you're the fixer. Michael found his anger again. It was his safest place. So this was the plan. Humiliate us. Make us the villains. And you get to keep the house and your pride. Are you finished? I asked. Yes, he said. Good. Now, you will listen. This is how it is going to be. I pushed a single sheet of paper across the table. It was a list I had handwritten. I am not selling the house. I am not moving into your basement. I will help Leo directly. If you interfere, it stops. Jessica flinched at the last line. It had barbs. Please, she said. Just the one word. You should have said that sooner, I replied. I am not your enemy, I added, and I looked at them both. Michael pushed his chair back and stood up. So fast it almost tipped over. He glared at the bowl of lemons as if they had personally offended him. Congratulations, he said. You won. This wasn't a game. I said. Everything is a game, he replied, and walked to the door. Michael, I called. He stopped. When you talk to your realtor, tell him not to send any more mail. My porch is for people who know my name. He left without another word. The door closed softly behind him. Jessica stayed. Her coffee was cold. She looked into it, as if into a mirror she didn't like. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. For the first time, I believed her. She was no longer calculating. She was just tired. You don't, I said. Not today, and maybe not alone. She nodded, looking very small. Mom, are you going somewhere? Yes, I said. Not today, and not to a basement. Will you tell me when? When I'm ready, I said. And when I do, it won't be a negotiation. She stood up. Can I bring Leo by tomorrow? Yes, I said. But leave the money at the door. We'll talk like family, not like accountants. A tiny smile flickered on her lips. Cake, she said, hesitating. Cake, I agreed. Sunday it is. She left, and the house seemed to exhale. Then came the hearing. The room smelled of old varnish and stale air. Michael and Jessica sat there, with a lawyer I didn't know. Leo was there too. He sat quietly in the back row. The sight of him warmed me. Their lawyer began. He painted a picture of an aging mother, overwhelmed by a house, of children who only wanted what was best for her. This is about protecting Mrs. Hale's well-being, he said. It was my turn. I opened my folder. Protecting my well-being? This house has been paid off for 6 years. The taxes are current, but that's not the point. I pushed a stack of papers towards their lawyer. The point is, John had more than one house, and he was very clear about his wishes. It was a codicil to John's will, one they had never seen. In it, he created a trust for Leo. That trust contained not just this house, but the 2-acre lot next to it. The lot I had quietly purchased after John's diagnosis. The assets were no longer in my name, and they were not in theirs. The colour drained from Jessica's face. You can't. I can, I said gently. And I did. I looked at them. Everything John left, I am protecting it his way. You talked about maintenance and taxes. You never once mentioned his garden, his maple tree. You saw square feet. We saw 25 years of our life. The magistrate cleared his throat. Given this new documentation, he said, there are no longer grounds for this petition. And he closed the folder. It was my final victory. No gavel slammed. No shouting. Their plan just quietly collapsed. Airports always make me feel small. I held out my passport. A machine confirmed I existed. The flight was to Portugal. It was my journey. I stepped outside. The air in the Algarve was soft. A man stood not far away. He held a small sign with my name on it. He was compact, with neatly combed hair. When he saw me, his face lit up. He walked over. Mrs. Hale. Marco, I replied. He hugged me. It was not an awkward hug. His shoulder smelled of oranges and clean linen. He let go. Your Mr. John would be angry if I did not greet you this way, he said. I smiled. He would pretend to be. Marco nodded. He understood, as if he had been there with us. We drove. When we arrived, he said, this is the house. He looked at me, as if to share the moment. It was smaller than my house in America. White walls, blue shutters. It wasn't for show. It was a home. Inside, there was a bowl of lemons on the table. Marco told me about the debt he owed, a bad mistake in his youth. John had gone to the lawyer's office with him. He had saved his name, and he let a man keep his dignity, he said. That is more than money. When he asked me to watch this house for him, I promised. My new life had begun. Spring came to Portugal like someone opening a window. A window I hadn't known was painted shut. The mornings were still cool. The coffee was good then, but by noon the sun was everywhere. I had learned the rhythm of the place. On a Thursday, Leo's plane landed. I went to the airport to meet him. Marco insisted I take a small sign. For the ceremony of it, he said. I felt a little foolish, until I saw his face. He was scanning the crowd, and then his eyes lit up when he saw his name. He half ran the last few feet, just like a child. He hugged me so hard. "You're here," he said into my jacket. "I am," I said back, burying my face in his hair. "And so are you." On the drive, Leo looked at everything, the way I had at first, but with more joy, less doubt. When we pulled up to the house, he stood and looked for a long time. "He knew," he whispered. "He knew what you would need." "He knew," I said. I put the key in the lock. It felt like an answer, not a question. The house seemed to welcome him. He ran his hand over the bookshelves, stood on the terrace looking at the sea for a long time. Marco had put a bowl of lemons on the table. "A habit of ours. Are we allowed to be this happy?" he asked me. "Yes," I said, surprising myself. "We are." That night, Leo and I stood on the terrace. "My mother called," he said, not looking at me. He went on. "She apologized. I told her she should have done it sooner, but I believed her." "She loves you," I said. "I know," he replied, but he didn't pretend that fixed anything. She asked if I was coming home. I said probably not. The next morning, I placed an envelope on the table, next to the lemons. "What's this?" he asked. He looked wary. "An investment portfolio," I said. "In your name. Your grandfather started it a month after his diagnosis. The returns are boring, but reliable like me. It was for an unformed future. Maybe now it's formed." He was stunned. He set this up for me." "Your grandfather did," I said. "I just did the paperwork. The important part was his." He reached for it, then pulled his hand back. "What are the conditions?" "3, I said. "Because love needs rules. 1, not a penny to bail out your parents from their own messes. 2, use it to learn, to live your own life. 3, never tell anyone the amount. You just say it's enough, and that will be true." He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I won't tell them," he said. Then he added, "because he knew I liked the truth, except for maybe Mom, someday, when she's earned it." "Fair enough," I said. On our way back from the fish market, Marco stopped us. He held out a small package, wrapped in brown paper. "For the boy," he said. "From Mr. John. He told me to give it to him only when I believed you had truly started your life." After Marco left, Leo held the package. He held it carefully. Inside was a slim notebook, the kind John used. The first page was his handwriting. "Leo, if Marco has given you this, it means your grandmother has done something brave." Bravery, by the way, looks boring. It looks like paperwork and keys. It looks like saying no when people want you to say yes. Bravery also looks like your face, like the faces of the men who came before you, men who treated stubbornness as a virtue when it was used to protect love. "E continued. I came here once, after the diagnosis and before I told anyone. I sat right where you were sitting, and I looked at the sea. I wasn't sad. I was relieved. Not because I was leaving, but because I believed I had built a life that could be passed on. If you are here, it means you are ready. Ready to hold on to what matters. Here is my only instruction. Don't let the people who love you the most be the ones who make you feel the smallest. Oh, and roll the lemons before you cut them. It softens them up. Just like people. Love you." Leo turned the page. It was blank. He stood up and went out to the terrace. He stood with his back to me, as if letting a great joy break inside him. When he turned around, he didn't offer it to me to read. He put it in his backpack, right next to his passport. That felt right. My life was quiet again. Jessica and I started over, slowly, based on truth. In the weeks that followed, Michael started sending photos on Sundays. Photos of cake, store-bought cake, homemade cake. It looked like an effort. The third week, he sent a different picture. His hand fixing a cabinet hinge. The photo was blurry, but it was perfect. One evening, Leo read from John's notebook. Not the letter, the pages after. When you let someone love you, John had written, make them learn your grandparents' names. He closed the book. He looked at me. His eyes were John's, but they were also his own. I'm going to stay, he said, for a semester, maybe more. Not to run away, but to run toward. I had found my peace in Portugal, living my own life, with Marco and Leo beside me. I had done right by what John left behind. For me, this was justice. Not a hammer or a sword, not fireworks. Just the right kind of weight. A life that fit.